Hi there, it's Mr. Clark. Welcome to Lesson 2 Composition Project Point 1, where we are setting up shop for our very first composition project. I'm recording this video about 2 years after the rest of the videos from around this point in the curriculum, going through, doing some editing, streamlining some stuff, and in particular streamlining this composition project. So, we are going to take a tune that you have already worked with, and in this case, I am going to choose Merrily We Roll Along, which we did from the first ear tune project. So, the first step is to choose the tune, which I just did. If you want to choose a different tune or a tune that's not on the list, talk to me, that's fine. We can see if it will work. Then the second step is we're going to bracket 4 staves together, 2 treble, and then 2 bass. So I'm going to have a line that connects all 4 of them, and a bracket that connects all 4 of them, like a super grand step. And we are going to want to choose a key that is not C major or A minor, so that we make use of the key signatures that we've been talking about in this unit. In this case, we first did Merrily We Roll Along in C, so we're going to have to just put it into a different key, and I'm going to choose G major. So write that key signature in, and our time signature on the first line. So, that's all done. We're going to write the melody on the top staff. If I recall correctly, it had 8 measures, so I'm just going to put that in. And as I said before, we wrote it in the key of C, but thanks to the magic of scale degrees, it will be pretty easy, because we figured out the scale degrees as part of ear tune 1. We know it goes 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 3, 3. And if G is 1, then B is 3. So we can take the scale degrees that we already figured out and directly translate it into our new key. So I'm going to pause while I do that so you don't have to watch me write it out. And here we are. Hopefully that process goes relatively quickly for you, and if you choose your ear tune 2, you can just use the same key that you used for that. No transposition required. The next step is to write our chord symbols underneath the bottom staff. So you should have chord symbols for both of your ear tunes, so regardless of which one you choose, that should be there. And then in that bottom staff, we're not going to write I forgot cadences. So we have an authentic cadence and another authentic cadence. So now we're going to write our chord symbols. Chords, excuse me, not a bass line, but chords. So if you're working from ear tune 2, we wrote the 3 inner voice parts. You can just condense those down to 1 stave to get a chord. If you're working from ear tune 1 like I am, we don't actually have the chords, but remember that in a 1 chord, we have 1, 3, and 5. In a 5-7 chord, we have 5, 7, 2, and 4. Like we talked about in the most recent ear tune, we want to use the law of laziness. So if we think about the notes in a 1 chord, 1 in a 1 chord is closest to 7 in a 5-7 chord, 3 is closest to 4, and 5 can just stay on 5. So here, I have 1, 3, and 5. Great. So, like anything else, we're going to look at the furthest note from the center, and that will govern the stem. All 3 of them are stacked vertically and go together. If for some reason I felt like putting 2 quarter notes here and the bottom one down here, one thing we want to be careful about is vertical alignment, making sure that it lines up right with that beat 2, because that's where it's falling. So I'm going to shift it over a little bit. And since we're writing it down here, the stem's going to go up like that, hitting all 3 of the notes. But, most of the time I would just write a regular half note. If I'm in 3/4 or something where I need a dotted half note, all 3 of the note heads need to get their own dot. Again, not needed here because we're in 2/4. Last thing to think about when we get to our 5-7, if we try to stack them, we get F sharp is 7, C is 4, and D is 5. And if we try to write them all on top of each other, we get this like weird mess overlap thing up here. And that doesn't look pretty. We don't ever want note heads intersecting each other. So what we're going to do is we are going to stick one of them out. When you have 2 notes that are right next to each other on the staff, the one on the bottom goes out to the left. here the stem is down, so you want, you know, as many notes as possible to be on the right side of the stem because it's a down stem, and that one's just going to stick out to the left. Over here, if we wrote it down an octave, you'd want as many notes as possible on the right side of, on the left side of the up stem, so then that note would stick out to the right. So again, just doing weird things to show you various contingency cases, but really you should just have two chord shapes throughout, your 1 chord and your 5/7 chord, and you can just copy them over. The last thing to take a look at is now non-chord tones in the melody. So remember, 1 chord is 1, 3, and 5. So I have 3, 2 doesn't fit, 1, 2 doesn't fit, 3, 3, 3, 2. So my 5/7 chord, I only have 7, 4, and 5, but remember that 2 is still a chord tone in a 5/7 chord, even if it doesn't exist in what you've written here, because we're keeping it to 3 voices. So 2 counts, 2, 2, 2, 3, 5, 5, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 3, 3, 2, 2, 3, 2, 1, and we want to label what those are. So in this case, we start on a chord tone, we move to a non-chord tone, and we move in the same direction to another chord tone, and all those motions are by step. So that's going to be a passing tone, descending, then an ascending passing tone. Same thing over here, and here we start on a chord tone, we move by step to one of our neighbors and back to the same chord tone, so that's going to be a neighbor tone. If you run into a non-chord tone in your melody that doesn't fit, you're just going to put an X over it, because we don't know what it is yet. So that's what we got here, and this will give you a framework for the rest of the composition project. I'll see you next time.